But yeah, no, I welcome you all here, and it's an exciting night to launch our Innovation Month. So it's my job as chair to keep you all on time, and I'll definitely do my best. I will ask you to remain on mute until prompted, and there'll be times to interact. There is the chat function down the bottom if you'd like to comment or just talk and make some great questions for us, and we'll try to get to them. And our staff are available to ask questions as well. They're lurking, so please put them to work. Just as a bit of a background, for those of you who have joined us who don't really know much about the Latrobe Health Assembly, so we were formed from the Hazelwood Mine Inquiry recommendations, and the three initiatives that are most relevant to us are the designation of Latrobe Valley as a health innovation zone, the formation of the Latrobe Health Assembly, which is our organisation, and the appointment of the Latrobe Health Advocate, who's joining us tonight. So we're a community-led organisation, and we work with the community, and we are working on a ground-up approach. We have permission, and we do test the boundaries to do things differently, and we work with local and state government, all the health agencies, community and other services to implement programs and projects that best suit the needs of our community to improve health and wellbeing. So we have up to 40 members of our assembly, and we're passionate and strong advocates for change. And the people that are joining us on this meeting tonight who are part of our assembly membership are true champions in the community. And we bring people together with agencies and community groups in order to design, create, and then implement programs and grow those programs into sustainable and long-lasting initiatives to improve the health and wellbeing of our community. We have a board that is represented by CEOs from the key agencies, and that's Latrobe Regional Hospital, Gippsland Primary Healthcare Network, Latrobe City Council, the Department of Health and Human Services, Latrobe Community Health Service, and 4 community members to ensure that community always has a platform to be heard and to advocate on behalf of community. So, and they certainly do that, which is really good. So this evening is an opportunity to introduce you to our work, to launch our first Innovation Month, and to create or to spark creativity and optimism. And we want to activate our community. So we want to activate you to be really strong advocates for change and to feel empowered to create the change in our community that we want to see. So there is a lot of wonderful work happening in Latrobe Valley, and we want to celebrate that, and we want you all to feel excited about that we live in a health innovation zone, and it is unique, and it's an exciting opportunity for us to create a place where we're all proud to live, and a place where we're happier and healthier and optimistic. So our first guest is going to give us a big dose of that. So we know that this year has challenged us in ways that we could never have imagined, but it's also forced us to be creative and innovative and to think differently. So we've had to adapt to working remotely, seeing faces on a screen, seeing our own face on the screen, which is sometimes not the best face to see. We've had online schooling, crisis, stress, hardship, but we've also seen innovation. We've seen big innovation like car manufacturers making respiratory ventilators to meet demand. We've got robots, coronavirus robots in China that go in and scan and clean rooms and disinfect hospital rooms. So we've seen many positive, innovative and creative solutions to come out of COVID as well. And we've also seen a positive impact on climate change. So that is another huge positive that this year has taught us, that maybe we do need to be really mindful of our environment and where we live. So the future relies on innovation and invention and a very big dose of optimism. And tonight I can guarantee that you will definitely get that with our next guest, Victor Perton from the Centre of Optimism. So I'm going to hand over to you, Victor, and welcome you to our Latrobe Health and Assembly Innovation meeting. That's a mouthful. Over to you.
Anya, it's a great pleasure to be with you, and just reading everything about what you're doing, and watching many of the people on screen already are people I've met in years past in different roles, when I was Commissioner of the Americas, when I was a Member of Parliament, and even during the G20. Can I tell you on a mouthful, today a lady rang and asked to make an appointment at the Centre for Optimism. And I said, what would you like? And she said, my eyes. And I'm thinking, she wants me to look at her eyes. And of course, what did she want? She wanted an optometrist, not an optimist. So we both had a huge laugh about that. Look, it's wonderful to join you. And what I propose to do is, why is a guy like me working on optimism and absolutely obsessed with the need for optimism? So I'll take 3 or 4 minutes for an introduction. Then I'll talk for 5 minutes about the contemporary science of optimism, both in respect of health, work and innovation. And then I'll share a couple of the habits that we think are absolutely easy to introduce into a community when people are thinking about it. And when I think about your Hello and your cafe program that was started, it's exactly in line with that. So my life, I was, as a young man, I was elected to the state parliament at the age of 28. And 18 years flashed by, but they were years of incredible innovation. Some of you were too young to remember the days before the internet, but in the mid-90s, and we were so excited when we'd hear that ding, 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 ding on the modem. Does anyone remember that, the excitement of that first connection? And I was lucky enough to be involved in the creation of the first multimedia agency. I created the first internet site for an Australian politician. I moderated the World Bank's first online forum. And most fun of all was the introduction of the internet into Victorian libraries, schools, building the first networks. And Bill Gates wrote about what we were doing in Victoria in business at the speed of thought. And he said we were the world's best. And the Latrobe Valley was very much a part of that, adopting the internet, adapting the internet and making it work for citizens. 2006, I'd had enough of politics. It was increasingly negative. I was the old-fashioned guy that used to shout at people in question time, but then go out and have a beer or a coffee, with my opponents, and we could have a laugh and talk about our kids. And this 24/7 criticism just wasn't me. So I left. And then out of the blue, John Brumby, who was then the Premier, took me to lunch and said, look, I'd like you to go to the Americas to be Commissioner of the Americas, looking after foreign direct investment inwards, promoting Victorian exports, and Gippsland exports were very much a part of it, but also bringing experimental programs into the Latrobe Valley as well, including people using fly ash and the like. And in that work, what made my work so easy was the global stereotype of we Aussies. The chairman of Caterpillar said to me, you Aussies remind me of the Americans of 100 years ago. Nothing is impossible. The Secretary General of the Rio Olympics, we took 5 trade missions of Victorian sports experts to Rio, said to me, all I want, Vic, is an Olympic Games as good as Sydney, a legacy like Melbourne 1956. We did a lot of stuff around drug trials, and the head, for instance, of Eli Lilly invited me to come to Indianapolis, and his catering manager was so excited. She baked lamingtons and party pies and served them on the silver service they'd last used for the British royal family. It was, I think, the first time lamingtons had even been eaten in the chairman's room there. And so my work was made easy by that legacy of what Australians mean to people in North and South America. Relentless optimism is what they regard us as being, as exemplifying Australians. Then I fell on my feet even more. I was senior advisor to the Australian G20 presidency. And this is that super elite of prime ministers, presidents, finance ministers, and it was exactly the same. An Aussie's word is his bond. And, even we were at odds with the Russians. They'd blown up a plane over the Ukraine and we were at odds. But even then, the comment was, I'll never die wondering what you'll think, Victor. And that's a good thing. So again, this really positive view of Australia. And then for family reasons, I moved back to Melbourne in 2015. And I was astonished by the negativity towards leadership. Not political leadership. Political leadership is sport, hating your politicians and laughing at your politicians. That's sport in every country, from Angola to Russia to Australia to America. It's fun. But it was this negativity towards other leadership of institutions, of NGOs, of corporates. And I was a little bewildered. So rather than complain about the complainers, I set up the Australian Leadership Project. And we interviewed 2,500 people. And we asked them basically, what are the 3 qualities of Australian leadership? Now, if I look around the room, I think you exemplify it. What is it? It's egalitarianism, right? We talk to the cleaner with the same respect we talk to the chairman. With excuses, Tanya, maybe we talk to you with more respect, but generally in Australia, the Prime Minister sits in the front seat of the car. We don't bear airs and graces. Number 2 is self-effacing humour. I look at the smiling faces on screen. We laugh at ourselves, but take our work seriously. And then the 3rd feature of Australian leadership is what the Russian finance minister said to me. No bullshit, plain speaking. You'll never die wondering what an Aussie thinks. Now, if those are the 3 qualities of Australian leadership, most of the people in this room exemplify it. There are millions of people like that in Australia. So at the end of 2 years of research, I was still mystified. And then my eureka moment, my good luck moment came at the Global Integrity Summit in 2017, where I was on the last panel after 3 days of misery. And, it was everything that could be wrong with integrity. And my speech was the case for optimism. And it lit up the room. And I was fortunate enough that Helen Clark, who was then the head of the United Nations Development Programme, the former Prime Minister of New Zealand, said to me, Victor, you've got to turn that into a book and I will endorse it. And it did, and it turned into 2 books, and it turned into the Centre for Optimism. And what does the Centre for Optimism do? Only one thing, and this is the sentence I want you to remember from my presentation. Only one sentence from this, and that is, we ask the question, what makes you optimistic? We don't lecture you on the state of the world, that it's better than it was 100 years ago, because optimism is a state of mind, not a state of the world. And our definition of optimism is the same one that's used by Harvard, Oxford, the US military, Boston University, and that is, it's a belief that good things will happen, that things will work out in the end, to which some people add, and if it hasn't worked out, it's not the end. So it's not Pollyanna, it's not there's a silver lining in every dark cloud. Bad things happen to good people. But it's a belief in persistence and it's a belief in going on. Now, what's the contemporary case for optimism? Well, Harvard thinks it's so important that they think it's a major public health issue globally, that the diminution in optimism worldwide, that the fog of pessimism is impacting on the health of communities and people. And if you look at Victoria and the figures from the Royal Commission, this century, since 2006, there's been a doubling in medicated anxiety and depression in Victoria. Something's going wrong in the land of plenty. So let's go to the case for optimism. The first one is health. So last year, Harvard University, the American military, and Boston University produced a huge report on longevity. Now, longevity, is it genetics? Is it geography? Is it wealth? No, what confounded the researchers was that the key trait in healthy longevity, living to 85 with good mental and physical health, is optimism. And it aligned with an earlier Italian study on people over the age of 100. In their case, it's optimism and purpose. This was followed up quite soon afterwards by the American College of Cardiology and the Mount Sinai Medical System. And you don't need to take notes on this. It's all on the website and I can, pass you across all of the details. They had a huge study, 200,000 people over several decades. They found, again, confounding the researchers at Mount Sinai, because they assumed it would be geography or genetics or wealth. The most significant protective factor against heart disease is optimism. The greatest predictor of recovery from heart attack or angina is optimism. I did an interview the other day of the lead researcher on HIV at Walter and Eliza Hall. The data on HIV shows optimism is a characteristic in longevity with those suffering from HIV. A study from the Vienna Medical School, published 5 weeks ago now, verified some earlier studies in the US. Optimists have 1/7 the level of sleep disorder as the general population. And the explanation for that is that the optimist puts the ordinary anxieties of life into context. Instead of that awful question that some chairmen and women in Australia ask, which is, what's keeping you awake at night? The better question is, what's making you optimistic? And the Vienna study also showed that sleep is good for optimism. And interestingly enough, and I'll come back to this in the how of optimism, they also advocated for the my best self, the daydreaming, the understanding, the imagining that exemplifies what underpins innovation. I could keep going on the number of stories in relation to health, but the evidence is clear. And Harvard Medical School certainly believes it's a major public health issue. And that's, I think, the challenge to you. How can we spread infectiously optimism in the Latrobe Valley and beyond? Now, in the world of work, it's crucially important. And given that this is innovation, I'm just going to share one screen from our website, which is on the relationship between optimism and innovation. Can everyone see that? Just a hand up. So you can't be an innovator if you're not an optimist. The pessimist is ground down in what goes wrong. And my favorite quote here, if you can see the little arrow, is Martin Parkinson, who was the head of the Australian Public Service. Optimism drives curiosity, which in turn fosters innovation and invention. So whatever the challenges we face, it's better to tackle them with an optimistic bent, confident that nothing is insurmountable given enough will and effort. A friend of mine from Nigeria, optimism drives imagination. Without it, we exist. With it, we exist. Without it, we become inexistent. It's lovely Nigerian English, but he puts it so beautifully. And my friend Glenn Barnes, who's the chair of the Australian Citizens for Democratic Renewal, puts it like a poet, doesn't he? Optimism is the font from which innovation flows. And there's a lovely example here from Adrian Ferner, the managing director of Commercialise. It took James Dyson 5,000 versions of his first vacuum cleaner, that instant success that took him something like 20 years. So optimism is a foundation for innovation. It's a foundation for contemporary leadership. Bob Iger, who retired as the head of Disney in April, published his autobiography, 10 Characteristics of the Modern Leader. The top one, realistic and infectiously optimistic leadership. McKinsey says the same thing, Dominic Barton, Corn Ferry, the former chairman of the Australian Chamber of Commerce, Jeremy Johnson. It's clear. And then those of you who are strategists know that optimism is the underpinning of strategy. Who can do a strategy that's going to leave the organisation worse off? But look, I can talk for ages about that. I do have a 2-hour speech on the why of optimism, so we're not going to deliver that. And I do have a 105-slide PowerPoint if anyone wants it. And let's move to the how. So we've, and we'll be sending this to you, Tanya. You can use it with the whole assembly and beyond. We're now creating a new education product for free called The Habits of the Optimist. And some of them are quite simple. So look, we've still got 13 non-video people. So those non-video people, could you do me a little favor? And if you could just come online. So I'm going to give you 5 of the 14 habits. And the first one, you are going to say, this guy's pulling our leg. This is just too simple. The first habit of the optimist is to smile. Right? Look at yourself on the screen. Check, are the edges of the lips up? It makes common sense, but the science is so strong about the infectiousness of the smile. And, you know, I'm in Melbourne and we've still got to wear a mask. It's not that easy. But, you know, if you can do it with your eyes, if you can do it on screen, smiling is huge. We did a beautiful event the other day with the fellow who's got the art studio under the Coca-Cola sign in Sydney, George Hall. And George recovered from terrible drug addiction to now be a very successful international artist. And he said, look, I was walking, after I'd sort of recovered from the drug addiction, I'm walking down the street in King's Cross and everyone's smiling at me. And he's thinking, God, is my fly undone? What's wrong? Well, of course, he was smiling at them. It was this wonderful reactive. So if you can check that in, I had a chairman of a company the other day saying, oh my God, I haven't been doing that. And by the end of breakfast the next morning, his kids were saying, Dad, can you stop with the smiling? But it's very powerful. So just check it in. The second one is laughter. Right now, I'm 61. So most of the jokes I was taught as a young person had a bit of sexism, racism, ethnicity. So I don't dare to tell jokes these days other than dad jokes. And people tend to sort of scoff at them rather than laugh at them. So what I'd like you to do now, and particularly those non-video participants, come on, there's 8 of you. I want you all just to laugh with me. In fact, why don't we unmute? Can we unmute everyone, Mr. Music? And let us just laugh together in that immortal Australian way. Come on, Dan, laugh a bit louder. Linda. The science is so strong. I was listening to Canadian radio 2 nights ago, and apparently every culture across the world laughs in the same way. Apparently it's the same sounds, and it goes right back to our monkey and chimpanzee and gorilla ancestors. There's laughter in chimpanzees and the like. So just remember, even if it's just once a day, just laugh at something or laugh with someone. The third one I've been using in prison, and we were so successful in running this program in prison, we were asked to do the same program, but for half a day with prison general managers. And what we do with the prisoners is we ask them this question. I'll ask you this question. In Australia, when you ask someone, how are you? What do they say? No, Robin, I don't think so. I think that's only you. What does the general public say?
Good, thanks.
Yeah, I think we get more of not bad or not too bad. When we've tested it out in the public, it doesn't matter whether you're Australian born or a migrant, we get this not bad or not too bad. Wasted question, wasted answer. So I'd like you all, if you're up to it, to test this tomorrow. Don't ask anyone, how are you? Say something like, what's the best thing happening for you? Or what's been the best thing in your day? So, hi, Paul, what's the best thing in your day? And you immediately change the conversation to positive. You're getting them to say something positive. And now, if they say something like effing nothing, you know there's a question you need to ask. You know, there's something going wrong. But most people will stop because you're the first person to ever do that to them. And they'll actually give you a good articulate answer. And I did an interview on New Zealand radio recently where the head of the All Blacks business coaching said, I've been plagiarising this bloke for the last year. And every client of his now knows that when he comes into their office, he's after something positive. Now, the reverse of that, ladies and gentlemen, is if someone asks you something. So in Australia, if you know someone says, how are you? And you say, fantastic or brilliant, they think you're exaggerating or they think you're kooky. So what I'd like you to try is the second experiment, right? You get a refund on my speech if this doesn't work, by the way, is pause. So, you know, hi, Chloe, how are you? Just pause for a second, say, thanks for asking. Oh, look, work's going fantastically. Or my daughter made me tea for breakfast this morning, or something brilliant happened. Don't go long. You want to be as long as not bad or not too bad, but you will then get the next question. And in prison, we found this so changed the communications that we were asked to come back and come back and come back. In fact, we even did it in the New Zealand tax department. All my Kiwi mates now hate me because they prefer a tax department that's negative and depressed rather than one that's optimistic and friendly. I've got 14 others, and I want to go into breakout groups at 6:30 where each of you ask each other this same question, then come back and share it. The fifth one I do want to share is really important, and that is put yourself on a news diet. Right? When I was young in the 1970s, the news was 50-50. There's a lot of evidence around that. You know, if you were Channel 7, you had 2 camera crews. There was only so much bad news you could get or buy because everything came by film or video disc. Now, the editing practices are in a typical week on the ABC, and it's no different on 7 or 9, 95% of the non-sport news is bad. So if you wake up in the morning and you're starting off with the news, you go to bed to the news, you are going to think that the world has gone to pot. And all I advocate to you is you've still got to stay attuned. I mean, Paul, you'd sound silly, wouldn't you, if you didn't know what was going on? So 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes in the afternoon, or on the way to work, but cut it down. And the reverse of that is, again, what Disney's research shows is that people are aching for stories of hope and optimism. So if you're on Twitter or you're on LinkedIn or you're on Facebook, make it a habit once or twice a week just to put up a good story about your organization, about you, about someone in your family, but share that good news. And then the last habit, I think all of you will have heard this one, is the gratitude habit. And you know, the evidence is that for people with mild to medium depression, that keeping a gratitude journal is better than medication because most medications don't work. But the trick that comes from the positive psychologist is not just to keep the journal and write it down last thing at night. The trick is, instead of listening to the news, first thing in the morning, take that little diary with you, whether you're sitting on the toilet or having a coffee. The first thing you read in the morning are those 3 good things that happened the day before. And then the other thing I advocate, I think the emptiest thing of all, is a gratitude journal which doesn't actually act. Rather than write down, I really enjoyed dinner with X, or I really enjoyed someone doing me a favor, it's sending an email, it's sending a text, it's sending a little card just to do that real thank you. So look, that's probably enough because, you know, I can go on for literally hours on this stuff, and we've now got the biggest website in the world, both on the case for and the habits of the optimist. What I'd like you to do now, if you don't mind, Mr. Music, Richard, is we're going to break you up into groups of 5 for 6 minutes, and each of you is going to answer the question, what makes you optimistic? Is it life experience? Is it family? Is it friends? Is it faith in God? Is it faith in people? Is it something beautiful? Is it living in nature? So that's all. It doesn't need to be complicated. Just something to share. And then when we come back in 6 minutes, I'm going to ask a few of you to share that. And of course, if anyone's got any questions that they want to ask, we can do that at the same time. So any questions on that, or does everyone understand the job? The question is, what makes you optimistic? Optimism is a belief that things will work out in the end, all right? It's not everything's rosy, that things will work out in the end. And I'll be popping in and out, I think. So Richard, may we go into the breakout rooms? Thank you, everyone. Did everyone enjoy that? A bit of coaching here. Who knows the reaction button on the bottom of Zoom? Can you see that button on the bottom right, reactions? I reckon a heart to each of the people who was in the group with you.
I don't know if we've got it on our technology. We're not up to that.
It was very inspiring, my group. So look, what we've got now, we've got 10 minutes left. And what I'd like you to think about is actually asking that question of your partner, your husband, your wife, your spouse, or someone at work tomorrow. And maybe, because in Bendigo, for instance, we ended up with several hundred people, and their innovation festival ended up with 2,000% increase on attendance with an optimism theme. So have a think about whatever event you've got, adding that optimism theme. So now, can I ask, and of course, anyone who wants to ask a question, you may, but I'd love to ask the question of you. So Tanya, can you tell us what makes you optimistic?
Yes, you can. So I find myself being optimistic when I see kindness and when I see good things. And when I see good things and acts of kindness, then it makes me want to do better and be better. And the other thing I reflected with my group was a love of learning. So when I'm learning and when I'm curious and being getting energy off people and their passion, then I'm optimistic and I love that learning and bouncing ideas off each other. So that's how I stay optimistic.
And is Nicole around? Because I've primed Nicole to share. Is Nicole there yet?
I sure am. Yes.
Well done.
So I was actually in Tanya's group and I was optimistic listening to Tanya. So, but I actually get a lot of optimism just out of the simple things in life. So it's just sunsets and sunrises or seeing a flower bloom or a dog. Dogs are the main optimistic creature in the world, aren't they? They're never upset. So, I love all of that, really. Just the simple things.
And you've been head of the Innovation Centre for 1 month. So you're bringing
Not
innovation
quite.
and optimism in spades, aren't you?
I'm just optimistic being here, thinking it's going to go well when I'm only just new. And following you, Victor.
We are here. And you see those sunrises? That's our symbolism.
Yeah, great.
There's nothing better for your mood than watching a sunrise or a sunrise. And that's our other bit of branding is the lighthouse. We actually want everyone to be a beacon of optimism in the fog of pessimism. And it's a challenge because the zeitgeist in the world is pessimism. The world's collapsing, everything's getting worse, whereas the reality is life's actually getting better for most people. Now, Jane, you are doing wonderful work in the Valley. Can we ask you what makes you optimistic?
Thanks, Victor. So you've made me smile straight away. It's an easy answer for me. Although I am naturally an introvert, it's the conversations I have with people every day. I just love going out into the community. I love hearing what I am hearing from people. They just want to make things better, and it's up to us to put things in place so things can be there for whatever it is they want to achieve. So it's the everyday conversations with people.
And I love that symbolism behind you, the orange and the yellow. Can you show us that logo behind you? That just, it speaks volumes. That is fantastic, Jane. Well, we're going to hear you later, but we're all with you in optimism. Now, Paul, you're in policing. Do you want to share what makes you optimistic?
Well, we've discussed it, but I think the innovation of COVID-19 has made us utilise technology such as Zoom, so we can engage with one another and get to know each other quite easily. And it stops the barriers of distance, tyranny of distance, I should say, in time. Look at us today. There's many at home joined in for the meeting today. I'm only new to Latrobe, and it's this is optimistic, hearing all this from the different people in the various groups. And it's the first part of the assembly that I've been to, so it's just wonderful. So that's optimism in itself.
It is. It's just wonderful when you hear what makes other people optimistic. Who would like to go next and share their optimism before I call them up? Throw up a hand. Oh, I'm going to have to. There we are, Chris, please. And then Arthur, you're going to have to share your one on faith too.
My name's Ange, actually. That's my husband's. I'm on the home computer, so yeah. I get optimistic by surrounding myself with positive people and spending as much time as I can with positive people. And yeah, I find that very optimistic. And also helping people. I try and help someone in some capacity every day, and that's gives me optimism.
Yeah, that's one of our central ones. The guy who wrote True North, the head of leadership at Harvard, Bill George, when I said to him, what makes you optimistic? He just said to me, being surrounded by positive people. What a blessing. But you do need to make choices because, we all have to spend time with some negative people. They may be family members, they may be fellow employees. But one of the things I taught the guys at the tax department, they had 5,000 people and we had 100 people in the workshops. They created their own group of optimists that now have coffee once a week so that they're getting that real upbeat. Now, who was next?
Yep. Me, Pretty.
Was it me?
Arthur, you were going. Yes.
Yeah. We talked about I've got can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep. Basically it's mentioned that I've got a strong faith, I'm a Muslim. So my faith really asks that, pessimism is not good. It's you should be always hopeful and expect that good things will come your way. So that I think keeps me moving. And then obviously that we talked about that keeping surrounded with yourself with the positive people. And you don't want to get absorbed into negative energy from people. You don't want to get the negative vibes and negative energy. So that is one of the key things for me.
Yeah. So Islam is a very religion that emphasizes optimism. So too the Sikh religion. So very strong on the theology of optimism. Evangelical churches are often quite optimistic. And then there are other traditions where there's this big debate between hope, faith, and optimism. But my most recent essay on that was you can actually do all three. Now, look, I think we've only got 3 minutes left to go. So I think, what do you think, Tanya? Do you reckon any of these groups, I'm happy to come and join any of your groups to do the same thing. Paul, maybe we can do this with one of your police stations and Lifeline, again, if you want to, we did some really fabulous sessions. If you want, anyone in the group, if you want to do a group session with your people, exactly what we've done today. We just do a little bit of the why and the how, but the most important thing is the sharing. And so I've given you bits of homework. One is to ask your husband, wife, partner, spouse, or child what makes them optimistic. Number 2 is smile more. Whenever you're on a video, remember the lips need to go up. Laugh often. No longer say, how are you in a greeting? Say, what's the best thing happening? Or whatever words come natural to you. And that theatrical version of you in answering that question. Instead of saying good, terrific, whatever, a one-word dismissal, do something really positive. Now, I'm going to, whatever I can do to help, I'm just so inspired by what you're doing, Tanya, by what the Innovation Centre's doing, by what the Health Advocate's doing. I think there are so many opportunities in the Valley with an underpinning of optimism, because you can't be resilient unless you're optimistic. You can't be innovative unless you're optimistic. You can't be strategic unless you're optimistic. And most importantly, what the world is yearning for, but the Valley is yearning for, is realistic and infectiously optimistic leadership. So no point being a Pollyanna. And the best way of doing it, I've got 1 minute left. I did this event for one of the ASX top 5 companies. And that's where I earned the nickname, that optimism man, because someone from the negativity industry had to introduce me. But there, they had the CEO open the event and they had me as the last speaker. And the criticism was that they actually should have had the optimism first and the CEO second. So what I'd like you all to think about, not every meeting, Jane, when you're running a round table or the like, optimism doesn't change very often, but maybe every 3 months when you start a meeting and put it on the agenda, don't catch people by surprise, but the opening question to the meeting is, what's making you optimistic? And it so lifts a meeting and so changes a meeting. There are groups in Telstra and the like. not every meeting, but every 3 months. Check in with your people, and it will raise your innovation and raise your resilience. Thank you for letting me spend the time with you, and I wish you all the best. And can we all end up with a huge smile to each other and lift each other? You are beautiful faces. Thank you, Tanya. Hand back to you.
Thank you, Victor. That was amazing. And I can see from all the chat comments that everyone's feeling much more positive and optimistic. And I can see and feel the energy. And I think that's exactly what we needed. So thank you. The smiling, the energy, the uplifting chat, it's something that we all needed, I think. It's been a tough year on all of us, but you know, these little things that we can do, and we can do it over chat, and we can do it over Zoom, and they're simple tips. And I know that we'll all take up that challenge, because we are all about being infectiously positive and optimistic. So thank you so much. So I'll move on to our next guest, who is Nicole Griffin, and she has the great task of being I can't see you, so it's really hard to see where you are, Nicole, but you've just been appointed the General Manager of the Morwell Innovation Centre, and we feel like it's a great spot where optimism and innovation will happen. And as an innovation zone, we would love to hear more about what's going to happen in that space and how we can work together and definitely partner with you on these optimistically innovative ideas in Latrobe Valley. So I'll hand over to you, Nicole, and welcome you to our meeting.
Thanks, Tanya. So I'm just going to share my screen and actually go back to, actually just give me a moment. So while I'm getting my PowerPoint up and running, which I kind of now regret after watching Victor do his thing. So I am the eternal optimist following him, I tell you. So I thought I'd just share a little bit about myself. So what I might have to do is, sorry, can everyone, see that? No?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. And I'll put it into slide mode. And can everyone see just the slides without the other section? Or resume slideshow? That might work. All right, so thanks for having me, Tanya. And I just wanted to do a brief introduction to myself. So I am only in my 4th week. So I thought this is a fantastic opportunity when I spoke to Richard last week in regards to having this launch of an innovation month for the Health Assembly. I thought, fantastic, what a prime opportunity. I'll put my hand up to say something about this new innovation centre. And just to give you some, I think, following on from Victor, some optimism for this particular area. I too am only new to the area, so I've been here 7 years, which is very new for regional centres, as you know. But previously, before this, I was actually in Singapore, and we had decided to move back to Australia with our family, and we kind of had a choice. We're kind of a bit gypsy-like in the family, and my husband's an agribusiness banker. That's kind of what he doesn't do it anymore, but that's what he was doing. And we said, well, okay, where do we want to go? So I'm from a remote part of northwest New South Wales, and he's just on the Victorian border in the New South Wales side. And so we looked at Esperance, we looked at Mackay, we looked at Orange and Sydney. I think we even looked at Darwin, and we kind of had this shopping list of things that we wanted in an area. So we wanted good schools, close to a CBD, but not necessarily in a CBD. Somewhere we can go on weekends to enjoy things around us, and in particular nature. So beach, snow, mountains. And then we looked at Traralgon, and it just ticked every single box. And, the funniest thing, when we got here, people kept going, why did you move to Traralgon? And then when I start rattling off everything that helped us make our decision, people are just going, Yeah, okay, I get it. But you kind of forget that when you're in the place. So I think our family is a symbol of optimism and what can, be on offer in this area. But today I'm really going to talk about the new Innovation Centre. And I've got a few slides. As I said, it was just a bit last minute. So I've got the wordy slides that no one likes, but I'll also warn you, but I've got this habit where I never really actually stick to a slide. But I'll pop it up. Did that change? Yep, here we go. Didn't change? That changed? Does that say what is the Morwell Innovation Centre?
No, it doesn't, Nicole.
Let me see if I can share again. Not that it really matters. You probably don't necessarily have to see it. I'll just unshare and share again. So I'll keep talking as we go. So the Morwell Innovation Centre, I guess, has been a concept that's been around for 4 or 5 years in the making. And the actual centre is a unique investment. So it's the first time, I think, where you've had so many stakeholders get behind a particular I guess, investment for the area. So it really is a $17 million investment from a number of stakeholders. So that's Latrobe City Council, the Victorian State Government, and of course Federation University. And the centre itself has just reached practical completion. I'm really just struggling here trying to get this up again. So I'll try again because I've got some photos I want to show you. Can you see that one yet? No.
So it's not changing for me at all.
It's not. So we're only seeing the one slide. Okay. Is there anyone who's, it's great, innovation person, can't get the technology to work?
Might have to unshare and then reshare.
I'm just trying to unshare too. There we go. Okay, we'll try that again. Okay, can we see that?
Yep.
And it says, what is the Morwell Innovation Centre?
Just turn into slide mode.
Slide mode. Is that working? All right. Okay, is that working now? All right. So that is up, and can you see the Morwell Innovation Centre? And is it in slideshow? But it's not in slideshow.
It's okay.
All right. Well, I'll just persevere because for whatever reason, it's just struggling. So the new Innovation Centre really, it's an exciting way that we can help transition the regional economy. So we all know that brown coal-fired power stations are coming to end of life, and we've got other global challenges, COVID being one of them, but also, things that we know, which has been mentioned already on this call with climate change and some of our health issues. So this is really an opportunity to bring all of those different aspects together and deal with what we would call wicked problems, and give us an opportunity or a forum or a platform to talk about how we can deal with those wicked problems. So the Innovation Centre is really going to have a commercial aspect where we have tenants in there, but the tenants are really going to be like-minded commercial businesses, which will all get together and set up in a way that they will be able to network and integrate to think about how do we deal with these wicked problems in the world, and in particular in Gippsland. But it's not limited to Gippsland, and I think that is also the great thing about it. Some of the the innovations that will come out of the centre will no doubt extend globally. So it's really quite exciting of the things that we can potentially do with the centre and having that collaboration with like-minded people. It's also going to host the Federation University MBA program, and I've got Peter Dostis from Runway on the call, who's also going to speak and tell us about the program and some of the innovation programs that Runway will have on offer. So can people start to see this? So this is what it looks like. So there's been this big building across from McDonald's. And funnily, as you drive around and speak to people, they go, well, what is that? Where is that? And you kind of mention, well, it's behind Kernay Hall, it's behind McDonald's. And they go, oh, yep, got it. And it's actually part of the Gippsland High Tech Precinct. But it's a standalone centre itself. So the High Tech Precinct is really about trying to bring all of the, I guess, education stakeholders together. So you also see the High Tech School, which is run by TAFE Gippsland, and it's across the road. And there'll be lots of opportunity for the two organisations to partner and work together to help create opportunities for innovation and education in that one precinct area. So this is a photo of the front foyer area, which will host up to 100 people for events, and these windows can fold out so we can have some al fresco when the weather's lovely in Gippsland. And it's a really nice space, which then comes back onto a kitchen. And I'll just take you through some other photos. So this is a grand staircase where we can go up to the first level. And on the top level, we've got some tenancies. So they will all be filled with the commercial businesses, which are like-minded. In this area here, you can go around and some more tenancies and also meeting rooms. And then I'll just take you through some photos of the actual innovation space. So this is what we're calling the Innovation Hub. So this is really an open area, which is open to the public and to people from the community that want to come and, you know, I guess create this energy and have the conversations and network and collaborate to help the innovation space. So it's giving people that space to think creatively and start to work together. And I think what we find in particular in Gippsland is there's so many things happening in innovation and programs, but it's how do we bring them all together? So instead of trying not to compete with one another, but how do we piggyback off some of the strengths of different areas and work as one to get things happening. This is an example of inside one of the tenancy rooms. So this is, as you can see, it's very modern. It's kind of industrial modern in terms of the layout, but all of the spaces are really not your standard office where you've got your little room and then you all come out and you sit in your tea room. It's really trying to have those interactive spaces. So we're going to be attracting tenants and businesses which are like-minded, and it will then, I guess, create the momentum for energy around innovation. As you can see, the design is just amazing. A lot of local tradespeople have been involved in the centre, and William Ross was the architect, but it's been an amazing space, and it really there'll be architect awards, I guess, for this building in the future. But I think what it does lend itself, it's giving Morwell and Gippsland the opportunity to have this space, which is, you know, it's something that you may only find in the CBD of Melbourne, right on our doorstep, and just the space itself lends itself to creative thinking and, you know, the optimism that we need to actually think about our region differently. And this is just an example of the upstairs area as well. So I'm sorry, this is going to go into some areas now where you've seen behind my slides, but after I've shown you the building and talked about the rooms, I think there's a, I don't know what you're talking about type of thing. Great building, but what does that all that mean? So I just wanted to give you some context as to why we thought this innovation centre and the high tech precinct would be a great idea for Gippsland in the region. So sorry, Victor, if you're still on the call, but there's a little bit of pessimism here. But as you said, we're not avoiding reality. It's really about this is the facts, and what are we going to do about it is where the optimism comes from. So Gippsland itself is an economy which is low on innovation, it's high on natural resources, but it scores quite low on competitive indexes. And I know you can't see some of these things in the graph, but the red circle of the web is the average, and Gippsland is the blue. And really with this one, we want to be closer to the centre, not on the outside. So that's kind of how you interpret that. But as a region, we have got some shortcomings in how we compete against other major regions. So, you know, we can lose things to Geelong or Ballarat or Bendigo. And some of that is around our workforce and skills that could impede growth and development for the region. And I think this is all very true, and we'll bring home with this particular group on the call, is that we know that we have high levels of social disadvantage. And that also means you know, I guess health issues in particular. So we have to deal with all of those things. So a thriving community and a thriving regional economy really can't just be about the economics. It has to be about the education and the social health and well-being of the population. And that's going to be part of what we address also within the Innovation Centre. So it's really trying to also give some coordination to innovation. As I just said, there's lots going on, but how do we keep going in a coordinated way and really make sure that we're benefiting from some of those things? And then obviously with an education with Federation University and Gippsland TAFE in the precinct, it's really about trying to build the capabilities and skills for people to do the other things. So we'll talk about that a little bit more. And as I say that, we're probably thinking, well, Gippsland, aren't we the same as other regions? Well, actually, we're not. We're a little bit down the ladder of where we want to be. So it is shown as an area which is underperforming in some areas. So in terms of education, we've got lower levels of people with certificate 3s, new business entry rate is lower, people aged between 15 and 24, all of those things just aren't really at the levels that you would expect in other regions. And so some of these metrics are what really underpin the business case to look at how we can solve this wicked problem. How do we deal with economic growth and social disadvantage and health issues? And it really can come from innovation and creating this hub and collaboration of like minds to tackle with some of those issues. So unless we do something, then the problem's likely to get worse. And this is an old slide from 2016, but it's really just once again showing some of the numbers that sat behind the business case for the Innovation Centre. So the unemployment rate was slightly higher than the average for the state. And we know that there's a high level of people in this area that are receiving welfare and are long-term unemployed, which then leads to health issues, early school leavers, and also a low level of people getting tertiary education. So if we're tackling the root cause, then we're likely to help deal with the wider problem. But there's good news, so there's always optimism. And this is going to slide in, but the Innovation Centre and the Gippsland High Tech Precinct really is, I guess, the lighthouse or the beacon of hope, I guess, for the region. And it's not going to be the thing that solves every problem, but what it does, it helps bring things together. And I think when we think of Innovation Centre, it's not that we've, you know, like the cat in the box, we're suddenly making aeroplanes and yes, we click our fingers and everything's happening. It's really about creating this opportunity to bust down or knock down silos within, I guess, our stakeholder community and wider community. So you haven't got government and academia, business and the community all at loggerheads trying to get their voice heard. It's really about leaving the ego at the table and all working collectively as one to form better outcomes for the community. And I think this is a unique difference about the Innovation Centre and the way that it's been supported with our stakeholders. It's really, there's been all of those stakeholders across government, across academics, across business, and of course the wider community that have seen that this is really an opportunity that can change Gippsland. And I like this one. So the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones that do. So I think this is really, you know, if I had to put a slogan up in front of the Innovation Centre, this would be what I think success would look like. So everyone that goes into that building thinks that they can make a difference, and that's their mindset. So we can actually start having meaningful conversations, but also believe that the conversations lead to really positive action. So just to back up, so what are some of the benefits of an innovation centre? And I've talked a little bit about it, but it's really about giving the community that opportunity to be exposed to technology and how we can use technology in the area. How do we support industry growth, transition and employment growth? So as we move from an economy that has been dominated by brown coal, what are some of those things that we need to do to aid the community and business in thinking about a different economy, a new economy, a clean energy economy, one that is involved in health and technology and innovation? All of those things are at play in the Innovation Centre. So it's really just trying to look at all of the opportunities that are right on our doorstep. So I talked about when I moved here, all of these things that, you know, sometimes an outsider can see, but you forget living in a district. What are the things that are our strengths in this region, and how do we build them together? And how do we equip people with the skills then to actually make a difference and do something a bit different? So this is just an overview of the actual innovation high-tech precinct. So you've got the tech school, which if you haven't been in there, get yourselves in there. It's unbelievable what they have available. So this is open to high schools across the Latrobe Valley. So they have virtual reality, 4D printers, really positive things about design thinking, mechatronics. From a health perspective, it's unbelievable. So they've got all of these fitness equipment. They can monitor things. They're teaching students right at that school level. Here are some of the things that you can do to promote health and well-being in our community. So it's getting the message out really early, but it's also creating positive pathways and experiences for people in our community and schools in this area to stay and actually work in that field that's going to change the way that we do things. So I talked a little bit about the high-tech precinct, so I'll go past that. I'm just conscious of time. So really, I just wanted to talk about, is there evidence that this actually works, these innovation centres? And there's a couple of different researchers that I just wanted to point out that have actually looked at or noted 5 consistent strategies of why it works. So we know that innovation districts work if there's a collaborative leadership network. There's a really clear vision for growth. There's that constant pursuit of talent and technology. There's capital and help and to invest and promote inclusive growth. And I think we've got all of those elements at the moment in the Innovation Centre, and definitely from the stakeholders in the area. I think the actual momentum behind this from stakeholders, including government and business, is phenomenal, and certainly Federation University has seen this as a way forward in their strategy as well. Federation University has already been successful, so they've actually got a technology park in Ballarat, and it's been there for quite some time. It opened in 1995. But what they've seen just across that area is there's a 74% increase in bachelor degrees from 2001 to 2011 in 10 years. And that is phenomenal. So if you go back and look at some of those earlier figures and what's kind of driven us to get an innovation centre in this region, if we can have that impact, and we're tailoring bachelor degrees and learning and education to what the district needs, what the region needs to help it grow. And we have such a dramatic increase in people getting degrees and staying in the region, what a difference that would make. So I think these things are very real. They can be measured. It's exciting. And I think there's a lot of evidence that this has worked in the past. And I just said, if you want more, there's some other things there. There's heaps of evidence in terms of how these things work. So I'm actually just going to hand over now to Peter from Runway to talk about some of the programs that Runway will offer to support the Innovation Centre, and more specifically, how members of the community can get involved.
Thank you very much for that, Nicole. I'll share my screen. Hopefully mine will work. Can you guys all see that? Excellent. All right, I'll kick off. Look, I've noticed the theme is optimism, and one of the things that I should start with is I'm an eternal optimist, because I see challenges as opportunities in everything that we do. And one of the things that we've done, and I'll sort of talk a little bit about it, and I will start with challenges for businesses at the moment, for a couple of reasons. One, because these challenges are bringing huge opportunities for businesses. And in a way, it's leveled the playing field, not only across the country, but globally in terms of what's going on. So in terms of the impact of COVID, as an example, one of the ways to have a look at an impact on a business is the factors that, or in the external environment, that impact on the business. And there's quite a few different frameworks to do this. One is STEEP, another one is PESTEL, etc., that talks about what are those external factors, and in this case, the social factors, technology, economic, environmental, and political, that actually start to impact the business. And generally in a stable business environment, these things are not changing very much. You'll have an election, so therefore, the political element might impact your business because it's got things like law changes, etc. And if the economy is not going well, there's going to be an economic impact. But when you have a look at what COVID's done, it's actually impacted all of these different factors which impact on business communities and the business environment simultaneously. But not only has it done it simultaneously in Australia or in Gippsland and in Victoria and in Australia, but it's done the same thing globally simultaneously. Now, when I look at that and I think of ideas and opportunities for business, it means that some of those barriers that would have existed are no longer exist, and some of the opportunities are no longer just within your region, but can start to extend well beyond that region. One of the other factors to consider, and I know Nicole went sort of through some of the figures, and look, I think Gippsland is a little bit hard on itself sometimes, and I wanted to put these in there because when you have a look at Australia overall, one of the challenges that we face is if you look at something like the Global Innovation Rankings, in 2019, we were ranked 22 in the world. In fact, that was one place lower than the year before. So we fell a place in 2018. And what it actually says is that innovation is actually not a priority for Australian businesses, which is a real challenge for us. The other one, which is the Global Competitiveness Report, which looks at how much is digital being adopted within businesses. And again, in 2019, we were ranked 16 out of 141 countries, down from 15 the year before. And the summary of that was that digital adoption is not one of the country's significant weaknesses. So the reason why I wanted to paint that picture is because what we've got is an environment that's changed dramatically, and businesses who are not necessarily thinking about innovation or not ready to innovate. And hence the programs that we need to create need to be able to support that. For our businesses. I just wanted to throw this map up quickly as a little bit of context. So this is actually a map of innovation ecosystems globally supporting startup activity. And as you can see, there's a lot of these around the world, and it's a $3 trillion in value in terms of that focus and support on startups. Now, we're not necessarily talking startups in Gippsland, we're talking existing businesses. But the way that this challenge was overcome globally was that we built these innovation hubs, and then we created these structured programs for startups to go through, called accelerators and incubators, etc. And so what we've actually done at Runway is we've taken that same model and said, why don't we apply that same model to businesses and start to create structured programs which helps businesses either grow or pivot, or if they need to change rapidly in a structured process. So we sort of feel that businesses don't just need tweaks to their business models. They will need help to change. They'll need help to innovate and adopt more digital. and knowledge alone won't help businesses. And what I mean by that is there's lots of free stuff that's available, and there's lots of information, but the issue for a lot of businesses is you don't have the time, and how do you weed through what's useful, what's not useful, and what's relevant to my particular business? So bringing together programs that start to do all of that will help them fast track that through those structured programs. So in terms of what we do as an organisation, so it's interesting, you know, Nicole sort of talked about building the Innovation Hub in Gippsland. We've actually got experience. We've built 2 of them already. So we built one in Geelong and we built one in Ballarat. And basically what our whole aim and focus is on is building that capability of entrepreneurs to be successful. And we do that with all sizes of businesses and at all stages of life, meaning that might be a startup or it might be an existing business that needs to change. It might need to pivot, might need to look for new opportunities. We use experiential learning for all of our programs, which means that whatever we're teaching, the businesses apply to their business immediately. And our methodology is very much around that application of that knowledge to build that skill and capability into the business. Then Nicole touched on the MBA in entrepreneurism in which Fed Uni is running. So when we set out to do that, so Fed Uni approached us probably 8 months ago now before it started in Ballarat. And it was for that exact reason. What they wanted to do was to say, how do we bring some of the experiential and practical things that you guys do in your program and blend that into an MBA program for entrepreneurism and then be able to deliver that to our students, which obviously is happening quite successfully in Ballarat and Gippsland. The second thing we do is we build those ecosystems, which is basically the support network. So we're saying it's one thing to teach a business some skills, but they're going to need support beyond that. And they're going to need a network that they need to be able to tap into. So that triple or quadruple helix that Nicole talked about and bringing all those elements together is really important. And then we need to engage our communities through things like events and meetups, etc. Because what those events do is they bring the optimism, they bring the inspiration, they bring the aspiration for those other businesses or people who are going, well, maybe I could change, but I'm not sure whether I should. They can listen to business owners who have gone, hey, this is how I handle this, and I've grown my business because of that. Our philosophy is very much based around the lean framework. So rather than going straight from idea to executing the idea, that we take the business through proving that the problem exists, proving that a market exists, and proving that they can scale that. And the idea behind that is that they're slowly increasing their time and investment in their idea while de-risking it at the same time, rather than going straight from idea to execution. So our methodology, and I've sort of already touched on this, it's about how do we take knowledge, teach that experience to provide a skill for the business. How do they then take that skill, apply it to their business so they get impact onto their business? So in terms of impact, the main thing I wanted to talk about here is what the return can be for a region that's investing in innovation. So this is supporting what Nicole was saying before on how you can actually benefit from it. So just in terms of some high level numbers, so we as an organisation, we've helped support 8 regions across Victoria in terms of setting up their ecosystems. And across those, there's been 70 plus businesses launched. And I won't go through all of the information, but what I wanted to share probably more so was in Geelong. So when we look at the businesses that we supported in Geelong, and this was looking at so this was Geelong City Council who did this. They did REM Plan. So the REM Plan is a regional economic modelling that government uses across Australia in terms of impact. And they looked at, for Geelong, 14 startups that went through our program over the 17-18 year period. Those 14 businesses that went through created 49 jobs, 2.6 million in wages, 6.4 million in gross domestic regional product, and is annually injecting $16 million into the Geelong economy. So that's Geelong on its own. When you look at the impact across the state that we've had in terms of programs we've run, you can see that those numbers are significantly higher. So all that is to say is that if we invest in innovation, innovation will return back to the community as well and the region in terms of economic revenues. So in terms of our products that we offer, so we do a program for starting a business. Now we're not going to be running that in the Gippsland region. We're going to be focused more on the pivot or grow a business for existing businesses. We help build communities, and then we help connect those communities and engage those communities, which is the work and connect part. Our delivery model for our programs are there. We've moved everything online in terms of what we're doing. And the reason for that is businesses are very busy and don't have a lot of time. So what we've done is we've moved our programs from being fully face-to-face to being a combination of self-paced and facilitated sessions. We can facilitate the facilitated portions of that either physically or virtually, and the participants share their work and collaborate with each other and learn from each other whilst they're going through the program, which is really important. And then beyond that, there's obviously the ecosystem and the innovation hub that supports them. I won't go through the detail, although just to say that our startup program is a very intense 24-week program. For businesses, we've broken it up into 3 phases, being, and this is the program that we're going to be running in Gippsland. So the ready phase is all about assessing your current environment, understanding your own business, where's your capability gap and your capacity gap, what opportunities are available to you. So is that new products or services that you can offer into the marketplace, or could you solve a problem in a different way to how you're solving it today? So as an example, if you had a physical shop and you wanted to scale that, you might create an online store and then sell something through an online store. So that's a different way of solving that problem. Once you've done that opportunity evaluation bit, the next part of then is to review the business model and how does that impacted by what you've done in that first phase, build your value proposition, and if you're building new solutions, how to build a minimum viable product and test that. And then the third phase is the grow or execution phase, where we go through 8 modules. We do cover health and well-being because we see that that's very important, that business owners understand how they get that balance right between their business and their personal life, and understanding their health and well-being. And then the other things, as you can see in there, are basic elements that any business would need to go through. It's a 12-week program. It's self-paced with 2-hour facilitated sessions each week. So what we've tried to do is to keep the touch time for the individual businesses down to a minimum so they can still operate their business while learning and building on the business as they go through. We also offer the ready and the set on their own as well. The community side, I mean, this is a lot of the stuff that Nicole will do. It's about the facilities, having programs. We will also build a support of businesses that have specific skills in the region who can then help support those businesses in the particular areas they need. So if they're going to need some marketing advice, some digital marketing, some technology, etc. If we need to help them raise capital, obviously the connections with the university and the events that I've already talked about.
Peter, sorry, I'm going to interrupt.
That's okay, because I was going to say, I'll finish up there because I know we're running.
Thank you. I know you're talking as fast as you possibly can, so I'm impressed. Thank you. Oh,
I got the main bits out.
There was just a couple of questions, and we will get to them at the end, if that's okay, if people don't mind hanging on the call a little bit longer. I think it just shows how interesting and exciting this all is. So there is so much to cover, and there's a great opportunity for all of us. So I'll move on to our next guest because I know she's patiently waiting, Jane Anderson, our health advocate. And then if you don't mind sticking around, and we'll do a bit of a Q&A at the end, Nicole and Peter, that would be wonderful for those people who had the questions. So Jane, introducing you to the stage.
Thank you very much, Tanya. I have to say my stage is a chair that I'm sitting on in the office, so it's not a very exciting stage, but never mind. Yeah, thanks for the opportunity to present, and I will be brief because I know you're coming towards the end of your evening. I've met most of you, but I just wanted to introduce the role for those of you that I haven't met. So I'm the Latrobe Health Advocate, and I was appointed by the Victorian Minister for Health 2.5 years ago, and my role is to provide independent advice on behalf of Latrobe communities to improve health and wellbeing from a service systems perspective. I also provide a community-wide leadership role, again with a focus on systems change and strategic outcomes. What I'm going to do is just give a brief snapshot of some of the things that I've heard, because they're a focus for Innovation Month around social inclusion, mental health and healthy lifestyles. But I will be very brief because I'll give you a document that people can go to in the future and access a bit more information. Just by way of background for how I come to giving you this evidence, I have what I call community conversations with people, and that's talking to anyone in the community, and I have different ways of being approachable and accessible to people. Some of you will know about catching the buses. I also talk to groups, and obviously, like everyone else, lately been doing a lot of stuff on Zoom. And virtual technology isn't as useful as face-to-face. What I do when I have community conversations is I hear from people around what their health and wellbeing goals are, what gets in the way of achieving those goals, and what their suggestions are. So just briefly in relation to social inclusion, there's probably two quotes that I'd like to give you. And one of them is, and these are from community members, we've been pushed to upgrade our computer skills. And the other one is lack of digital connection fortifies isolation. We don't know about people who are not connected. So that gives you an idea a bit about what I've heard from people in the community about social inclusion. There's a concern about people obviously not having the connection as they have in the past. Digital connectivity has been really helpful for many people, but not everyone has access to it and not everyone has the skills. So there are some people that are being more impacted by lack of social connection than others. Older people have been concerned because they don't necessarily have the skills to use the technology. They don't have the routines and the events and outings that they've had in the past. Young people have had lots of time on the screens, so there's concerns about how that affects their health. Volunteers are not connecting as they would in the past, and again, some of them are not having that routine and purpose as they would ordinarily do. And there's a concern about people being by themselves, and there's also concern around how do we re-emerge, so into our new COVID normal, how do people be supported to come back into the community, because some are concerned and anxious about that. Yeah, in relation to mental health, again, there's a connection to lack of social connection. But interestingly, people have talked about a lack of independence. So again, where they feel as though they've got more regulations around them, what about they can do and can't do. This has been particularly impactful for older people who don't feel as though they've got the decision-making nor the activities that they would ordinarily have. We know that mental health has been experienced by more people in the community than in the past. So business owners, for example, are experiencing an anxiety and a fear that they haven't in the past, that they don't know how to necessarily access the services and supports that others might know about. I've also heard from universities about the concern for students around their connection, also concern for how people can access mental health services, particularly those who are involved in the justice system, and do they have the ordinary access to mental health services that they would have previously. And I've got two quotes again from people in the community that I'll read out to you. One is, knowing the signs of poor mental health is important, and also knowing where to seek appropriate help. The other one is, people out there may be feeling overwhelmed for the first time and not used to those feelings. So again, that gives you a snapshot of people's experience about mental health. In relation to healthy lifestyles, really and probably in the theme of optimism, the focus here is actually there's a lot of opportunity to reimagine healthy lifestyles. So we know that through the impact of COVID-19, people have actually become more aware of their health. We know that health has had a greater priority. Some people have talked about the opportunity that they've had to refocus their lifestyle, to take time out and also know what physical activity means to them. There's one issue in relation to healthy lifestyle that we need to be mindful of, and that's for those people that are experiencing financial stress, who I've particularly heard from in the last couple of months, and they have not necessarily had the ability to access healthy foods as others have, and they've not being able to access food in usual ways as well. We know there's been a lot of food relief that's been provided, but there's an equity issue for healthy lifestyles, and we need to make sure that everyone is able to achieve the lifestyle that they're looking for. So again, I'm going to provide two quotes from community members. One is, "We are the most relaxed we have been in years. We are exceptionally lucky in Australia." And the other one is, "People are saying they're starting to feel institutionalised. People are having falls and needing to access services." So that was particularly for older people that don't have supports to programs that they have in the past. So that's, Tanya, that's been a super quick snapshot of what I've heard from the community in relation to those issues. But as I said, I will provide a report that people can use in thinking about what are the ideas as a part of Innovation Month, and how they might want to think about developing them with an awareness of what the community has been saying.
Thank you, Jane. That was a very succinct presentation, so thank you. There's been a couple of questions about how to contact you. So there has been your info at Health Advocate Vic.org.au email, and your phone and number as well. So hopefully somebody will get in touch with you to follow that up. So Nicole and Peter, there were a couple of questions for you on the chat that I'd like to just cover up if we can, just quickly. What is the cost to businesses to go through the Pivot and Grow programs? And maybe Peter, is that directed at you?
Either one of us can answer it. So at the moment, it's going to be no cost to go through the program.
Great.
Yeah,
great.
I guess it was just part of the business case, and that's how we get these things started. So it's a great opportunity. So that I think if you know people, or if people are interested, please reach out.
Yeah, absolutely. So that sounds very exciting. Now, there was another question, and I've lost it in the eternal optimist chatting. Oh, how can organisations partner with some of this work? So just reach out to you, Nicole. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I think so. So there's no rule book on this. There are definite things that we know that are success factors, and Peter can probably talk to this much better than I can, having been a part of it in two other areas. But really, it's bringing the community together and understanding where those real wins are, and how we support, I guess, different programs to get action. So please reach out to myself or Peter when we get going in the centre. And hopefully we'll be open before Christmas, and people can start coming in soon after the new year.
Yeah,
absolutely. Because as I said earlier, I mean, the businesses that go through there are going to need support from businesses like digital marketing agencies, tech businesses, etc. So any of those businesses in the Gippsland area that feel they can help, we're going to need mentors who have got great experience that can help. So although anyone who's interested in getting involved and helping, then reach out to Nicole and get involved. The more the merrier.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Nicole and Pete, if I can ask you there's a couple of questions left on chat, but I need to sort of wrap things up. If you could jump on and answer some questions while I'm just wrapping some things up, I'd appreciate that. Thank you. So I would like to thank you all tonight for joining us on this chat about optimism and innovation. And I do hope that it has sparked your creativity. I've been talking too much today. I'm losing it. And encouraged you all to be infectiously optimistic. And I think that's the big thing that we need right now, is just to spread those stories of the good things that are happening. And there are good things happening, and it's hard to reflect at the moment what they are. But, even during the online learning, for me, just to spend that time with my children is an opportunity that I would never normally have had. So there are little glimmers of hope amongst the hair pulling and juggling acts. So I think that's really, really exciting to see what the opportunities are for Latrobe Valley and how we can celebrate our successes, because all of us are doing amazing things, and we just need to be better at celebrating that and sharing with each other what our good stories are. I'm going to hand over very quickly to Richard, who's the mastermind behind the Innovation Month, just to give you a little bit of information about how to stay connected, how to be involved, and how to keep that creativity sparked. So Richard, I'm going to hand over to you. Wherever you are. Or not, he's jumped.
Thank you, Tanya.
There.
Thank you all for joining us, as Tanya mentioned. For the rest of this week, we have 3 more full days of webinars, workshops and drop-in sessions to keep you all creative and innovative. For more information, you can visit innovationmonth.healthassembly.org.au. There we'll be putting up session recordings, updates as the month progresses, and any future events that may not have yet appeared. So innovationmonth.healthassembly.org.au. Thank you.
I feel like we've really tested the boundaries of tongue twisters tonight, so we're going well. Thank you everybody for joining us. I hope that we just still keep solving, these wicked problems that we have by being creative and bold and brave, and just be willing to push through the barriers that we do come up against. But as we've shown as a community, we are resilient and we are strong and we can do hard things. And I think that's really exciting. And yes, Victor, and when we are optimistic, good things can happen. So thank you all for joining us, and thank you to our guest speakers, Victor, Nicole and Peter. And I look forward to working with all of you to spread the good news and the good work in Latrobe Valley. So thank you all for joining us tonight, and good night.